As always, thank you for supporting local independent bookstores like us.
Hi, everyone. I am Mayor Carey, and I have with me tonight David Hiddle, who is the director of our Planning and Transportation Department. And welcome. I see some new faces to Traveling Town Hall. So thank you for coming. We do usually start with a children's book. So I picked out Hedgehogs Don't Wear Underwear, but they're my size tonight. And we don't usually actually start by reading a book, but I will tell you there are great books here to buy, and so when we're done with Town Hall, I encourage you to have a cup of coffee or peruse the book selection and find something silly or serious to take home with you. We are really grateful to Morgenstern's for having us tonight. Matt welcomed us well, as did the rest of their staff. And these conversations are really meant to be conversations. So I'm going to give a sort of high-level update on what I'm working on in the city. And David's going to tell you a few things he's been thinking about, but then we'd really like to take questions from you all so that we can target some of our comments and information to exactly what you're interested in. And we are doing a sociological test this evening. The most comfortable chairs were placed right in the front, yet everybody still chose the wooden ones. So if you would like to blow the sociological experiment instead of confirming my bias here, you may sit in these comfy chairs. Oh yes, see, welcome. And you won't even be on cats. I think you'll be out of the picture.
Well, this is nice.
Isn't it great? Yeah. If you had an ottoman, it would be perfect. Yeah. So thank you all for coming. I do these every other month, and we move around throughout the city so that we can get into different neighborhoods, we can get into different places, and that's all targeted not only to be close to you wherever you live, but also to provide comfort for people who don't love to come to City Hall. So of course I meet with people at City Hall every day, so does David. But these traveling town halls get us into different neighborhoods and hopefully meeting different people. And I usually bring one of the members of my cabinet with me, and we always invite the city council member from the district. And unfortunately, Dave Rollo, whose district we're in tonight, wasn't able to join us this evening. He's at a Jack Hopkins meeting, but he sends his regrets, and I'm sure he'd love to hear from all of you. So let me talk a little bit about what's been going on in the city from my perspective. Last week, of course, we had State of the City. If you want more statistics and a full rundown of everything we've been doing, go onto CATS and watch that recording. It is good nighttime viewing. And I'm happy to go into more depth on some things that we covered there. High level, this year we have gotten fire fully staffed for the first time in a very long time. So we're really proud of that. When I came into office, I was wanting to work on 3 primary areas: housing and homelessness, economic development, and public safety. So public safety, fire's fully staffed. We anticipate being fully staffed in police by the end of this calendar year. So we're really excited about that. We got unanimous union votes on those union negotiations, both in fire and police. And we're back at those union tables now. We did a short round to do some catch up. So that's what's going on with fire and police. And I will talk about Seminary Point in a minute. We have a sign holder. What'd you say? Okay. Well, I will tell you honestly everything I know about it. Let's see. So that's a good thing to talk about now. Housing and homelessness. One of the big things that we're talking about right now is the new state legislation, which is Senate Bill 285, which goes into effect on July 1st. And that illegalizes sleeping outside on public property. And so we are working together with Heading Home and the county to work with people who are living in 2 remaining public encampments. One of them is on city property, one of them is on county property. And so we've been working really hard on encampments since I came into office. And the way we do that is that we approved a process during my first couple of months in office, where we reach out to people who are in encampments, and we have somebody here tonight who knows a whole bunch about this process. We reach out to people who are living there, and we send outreach workers, and then our own city staff is out there. We give at least a 30-day notice before we set that date to clear the camp. And lately, we've been really successful in partnering with people who are living outside. And the last 2 camps that we've had to clear, nobody's been living there by the time the date comes to move. So we are proud of the process that has been in place, and we're also really grateful to all of our partners that have outreach workers and health workers and housing partners along the way. The other significant housing piece that we're working on is the Hopewell South neighborhood. And Hopewell South is the first phase of the housing development that will be where the old hospital was. And Hopewell South is now in front of council. It got a unanimous support from Plan Commission. That is proposed to be 98 homes, and the price range starts, anticipated if we could build them this year, but now it's been delayed. The anticipated starting price was $83,000 for an owner-occupied place, and those go all the way up, and those are small studio homes. It goes all the way up to a home that we anticipate costing about $600,000 and is more of a 4-bedroom, larger home. So those are right on the beeline. We're really proud of what we've proposed there, and we're really happy to have that in front of council. Council has a number of things they'd like to see in that neighborhood. We are working through that with council, and I really believe we'll get to some kind of common ground there, and I'm committed to working towards a neighborhood that actually works well. The affordability is the most important thing to me, though, because we increasingly have people, especially younger folks in Bloomington, who move here and they can't find a place that is affordable for them to live. So this is a way into home ownership where you can buy something small that's within your price range, and then you can move up as your household expands, or as your finances expand, or both. So we're really excited about Hopewell, and I'll say just a note about Seminary Point. We've had some folks talking about the very affordable units that are at the sort of near the corner of 2nd and College. They are part of the county-owned property. The city is not involved in that land deal. But they are scheduled to be vacated because the county is giving that land to the Capital Improvement Board as part of the Convention Center project. So that is that's a county land deal, and the commissioners are working on that. Well, I'll take questions later, but I actually didn't hear what you said.
In your Herald Times question, you were asked what you thought about that, and you said you wanted to speak positively of your colleagues and say they were just doing good business.
Yeah, so in the Herald Times, I was quoted as saying that I was supportive of my county colleagues. What is my understanding of their dealings with that building is that since the convention center was planned and since they acquired that property, it's always been their intention to take that building down, and that's been communicated for a long time to folks surrounding that building. So that's thanks for your comments. Public safety, economic development. So economic development, we are a number of things happening on the economic development front. We've been working really hard with folks at the Trades District, which is our tech park, and Trades District has really been filling up the mill. And the Forge opened recently. It's a Class A office building, and that is getting filled up pretty quickly. That is really our center for entrepreneurship and startups in the city, and that's going really well. Partnerships with IU and with Crane happening, as well as many different startups being incubated there. And that's important because as IU is really paving the way towards commercialization and innovation in their research, students and faculty alike need a place to do business and a place to incubate those businesses. And so that's going to be great for Bloomington. And that is part of our strategy to grow wages here in Bloomington, which is critically important. We also are thrilled that the convention center is finally coming out of the ground, and really excited about various redevelopment pieces that are going to go on the South College and South Walnut corridors. And what else do I need to talk about? I think that covers it, and I know you all are going to ask more questions of me, but I will hand things off to David and let him talk for a few minutes about all of the very exciting things that are happening in planning and transportation.
Thank you. Yeah, my world is all about housing right now, and probably will be for a while. One of the things that we're in the planning world, the world of urban planners, realizing is that we've spent, and I'm speaking about Bloomington, but really everywhere, is that we've spent the last 60 years just making our ordinances bigger and bigger and adding layers of rules on top of layers of rules. And they don't really make the place that they serve better necessarily, but they do make it a lot more expensive and a lot more hard, a lot more difficult to build things. So we're taking a close look at our ordinance to see what we can reasonably take out, for lack of a better phrase, just to make it more friendly, more intuitive, and more useful and more valuable. We need to be able to allow for more types of housing to be built. Right now, it's pretty easy to build a house, a conventional house, and it's pretty easy just to build a big student housing mega complex. And everything in between has kind of been lost in the wind over the last decade. So we kind of want to restore our ordinance to be able to allow for that. So that's a change to ordinance. We also want to change our processes, which have kind of taken the same tack. In the past decades, they've just become more complex. Rules on top of rules. My department, other departments, the utilities, really everybody having to do with development. There's a lack of coordination, and it's just really tough to build things here. So we've commissioned a third-party external audit of our department and utilities department, other departments, to help us figure out where we've just put in one step too many, where we have communication gaps, redundancies, bottlenecks, things like that. So again, make those processes easier. It'll make it less expensive to build, more predictable, and those are costs that eventually find their way, or a lack of costs that find their way to the consumer, and it should have a positive effect on housing prices down the road. I've worked other places, and Bloomington, everybody has this problem. Everybody has issues with their zoning ordinances. Everybody has issues with their processes. But Bloomington has a big issue. We just have lots of rules, lots of invested, engaged people with lots of projects and concerns. Those get written into the rule book, and you have those coming from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different types of special interests, and it just makes things really tough. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now. We also, following, interestingly enough, a big bucket of state legislation that kind of came into February really big and kind of breathing fire and promising to change things really significantly. It would have compelled every Indiana city, town, and county to dramatically loosen how they handle housing, a lot of it in a good way, some of it not so much, but by the time that bill got enacted as House Enrolled Act 1001, it had been completely gutted and all the juice taken out of it, so a little bit of a letdown there. But the upshot is that we have to report to the state now every year on our housing activities, our efforts to make housing more accessible, efforts to change the zoning ordinance, things like that. So it's a reporting mechanism that came from that, not too much more. What's interesting, though, is that other states, coastal states, blue states, and increasingly red states, have kind of gone down this preemptive state legislation road in the past. This is Indiana's first year trying to get some legislation moved. And what happens is typically the first one, the second one, maybe the third, they get shot down or they get dramatically gutted like ours was. And then they come back year after year with something more meaningful. So like a state like Montana, which is ruby red, but which has a very engaged governor on housing issues, has really progressive zoning reform, and they've been working at it for about 5 years, 6 years. So that, I think, if we're all hopeful, that is something that might happen in Indiana. Next year there'll be another package, might go a little bit further and have a little bit more teeth to it. But for this year, it was a big puddle of nothing at the end of the day. So anyway, that's what's exciting, if you can call that exciting in the world of planning these days. Do we open it up now?
Yeah, I think, I think, David, you've been a star of evening reality TV lately, so I think that means that planning is exciting, right?
It is entertaining. If you watch Board of Zoning Appeals hearings or Plan Commission hearings, it's reality TV.
So much fun. So we will open it up for questions, and just to make space for lots of questions, it's best if you really do ask a question that you want to hear about. I am happy to hang out afterwards and hear about issues or talk to people about issues if you have an opinion to share. But we'd really like to hear from you about what you'd like to hear from us about so that we can share information that's targeted to your interests. And if you are not somebody who loves to raise their hand in public and speak, there are some note cards on the back table, and I can't see Jennifer. Jennifer's back there. There's Jennifer. If you just slip your note card to Jennifer, she can read questions from people who don't want to speak them. Additionally, another reason that it's hard to take long comments is because Katz is recording this on TV, and so I will repeat your question back so that the camera can take it in and people at home can know what's being asked. So who has a question? Oh, lots. Okay, let's take this one first.
Hot topic at the moment is the hot topic at the moment is the Bloomington Iron and Metals property there on Rogers. Let's call it Rogers and 10th. That is just kind of a dirty field at the moment, or open space, but is supposed to be something monstrous.
That's the Iron Fell property? Yeah. Gray Star is a developer that's, I think they had some variances they went for, and I think they have to go for major site plan approval for a apartment complex to pretty much fill up that site.
Outline briefly the development of the plans for the hotel, for the convention center?
Yes, so the question is asking for an outline of the development of plans for the hotel for the convention center. Right now, there are no plans drawn for the hotel for the convention center. The CIB, which is the Capital Improvement Board, which is a shared board, county and city appointees, but it's outside of elected officials, so it's meant to be non-political, which is a genius move. So they manage this, and they selected a hotelier. The hotelier selected a site that is owned by the city. And that hotelier, in order to get their vision accomplished, needed some incentives to get that done. And there wasn't an incentive package that ended up working for them for that site. They moved to a different site, and then they ultimately have moved on. The CIB is putting a new request for proposals out. So there's no plan yet, and I just want to take an opportunity to explain to folks that convention center hotels operate differently than other hotels. They have to guarantee reduced rate room blocks. That's part of their contract. And so, their financing mechanisms are a little bit different, and it is pretty typical for convention center hotels to receive some kind of incentive package from somewhere, because they're going to be bringing in a bunch of visitors and essentially tourists who are going to spend money in the community. So CIB has put that back out for bid, and I actually can't remember the timeline for selecting the new hotelier, but then they'll go back to selecting a site. So no drawn plans. I have Take It Outside, and then the person right behind him will be next, and then we'll get to the very back. Your Take It Outside.
Is it all right if I ask each of y'all a question? Is that all right? So, okay, so I'll ask you first. My sister, she sometimes needs a wheelchair, and I'll go around town, I'll notice, my sister would have a hard time getting around this or around that. Is your administration going to improve the ability of people in wheelchairs to get around town without a car?
Yeah, that's a very good question. One of the things that, Mr. Take It Outside's sister is in a wheelchair and has trouble navigating the city, getting to where she needs to go, in a nutshell, right? And what are our intentions to try to ease that burden? So we have an awareness that the universal design regulations in our ordinance are pretty primitive. They touch on the idea of making the world accessible to as many people as possible, but it's not done in a very thoughtful way. And so one of the things that we've committed to looking at is examining some places that are doing it a lot better. Bolingbrook, Illinois is a city that does it wonderfully. And so we're going to update our ordinance, and with that, then new development, the way that the front doors are situated and arranged relative to the sidewalk, the way the sidewalks are arranged, the way that you're able to get from one place to the next is intended to be just a much more accessible environment for everybody. So accessibility has been a big topic of conversation on Hopewell, and the development consultants have pledged to do really quite a bit more than what the ordinance requires right now, and make a good number of the homes accessible. We're learning from that, and I think what we're putting in place there is going to look a lot like what we do when we improve our ordinance. We have a number of things in the pipeline for ordinance amendments this year. That is still on the table as something we want to get done in 2026. But beyond the ordinance amendment, I think there's just sort of a need for awareness. We have the CCA, the Community Council, Community on Accessibility. Very, very active in town, and they make sure that their voices are heard whenever there's amendments to ordinances, whenever there's a development, and we've engaged them and are committed to work with them as we improve our ordinance. So that's kind of the nutshell answer.
And I want to give just another little bit of an answer there outside of our official planning and transportation department. Of course, Bloomington Transit is not a city department, but it's affiliated. And they have been taking lots of steps to try to serve people better, including a pilot that we did last summer called Blink, and it was microtransit. So you could arrange for the bus to come, and it was a small bus, and literally take you door to door. When Bloomington Transit does these kinds of pilots, it's so important that people help us get the word out, because we can fund programs like that and our normal transit by ridership, and that's how all the federal dollars are attracted as well. And so would be interested to hear barriers that your sister or others that people know of are having to accessing Bloomington Transit. And we have a really forward-thinking director there, and he's always open to hearing how we can do better. So would love to hear from you. And I'm looking forward to your next question.
Yeah. So I value my privacy. I mean, we're Americans, we all do. But I've been noticing a lot of these new Flock AI cameras, and I mean, they track so much. I mean, where you're going, who you are, who you're with. And according to the website DFlock, there's a couple around town. I mean, just on the way here, 3rd Street's got a few. But anyway, some of those are even monitored and maintained by IUPD. Should we expect more Flock cameras? And what do you say to concerned citizens about that amount of surveillance?
Yeah, so the question is about Flock cameras, but specifically Flock AI cameras. And was noted that IUPD. Okay.
According to DFlock, the website.
Okay, what you said was IUPD, but okay. So it was noted that BPD has some. There are actually, so what BPD has are license plate readers, not the AI cameras. And so there are 11 of those that are owned by BPD. And I want to thank, there's been a number of people involved with raising Flock awareness to us over the past several months. And I want to thank you for bringing it up. Several folks have had one-on-one conversations with me, with our police chief, with others. As you may know, I don't know if you do know, we have a report that we'll be giving to council. That's to be delivered by April 15th, and then they'll take it into their discussion on the 22nd of April, I believe. So we are looking at all kinds of things with Flock, but I want to be clear that the cameras that you see up on streets are not the AI cameras. They're just the license plate reading cameras. Still privacy concerns. And so my job as mayor, obviously, is to help keep our community safe. And we are very carefully weighing people's privacy and how those Flock cameras have been used in other places with our ability to solve crimes as well. And so we have, we're in the middle of this study that we will be producing for council in a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I also have two questions, if that's allowed. One of them is directly related to Flock. The other related
great.
to Seminary Point. But with respect to the Flock, the Flock cameras, I'm wondering to what extent, and if you can like name people, I would love to hear it. Are you working with privacy or security experts in figuring out what your policy is? Because it seems that universally the public is against this. Like the general public, I haven't met a single person who's in favor of being surveilled like this. So I would imagine there must be a good reason to to outweigh the security and privacy concerns. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering what those conversations are like, and if there's any, I guess, very good reason that you would have for going against what the majority think of this, what the majority are concerned about. Mm-hmm. I know the report's forthcoming, and so I know I'll have to sit tight for a little bit, but I'm just curious.
So the question is, who's involved in consultation as we go through this process, et cetera, and a statement that the majority are against Flock. We have a number of different folks that have been consulted and are still being consulted. That's why you don't have a report yet. I'll just say that I just want to be clear that we are getting both kinds of feedback in the mayor's office. So it's not 100% against Flock, and I would say may not be even a majority. Nonetheless, our job is to take everybody's concerns seriously and to see what we can do to protect privacy, but also there are serious concerns related to our immigrant populations, trans populations, all of the frequently already at-risk populations, especially with the federal government we have right now. And so we are taking it really seriously, and I can tell you that no decision's been made yet because we really do want to do a good job with this decision. And you had another question.
Yes, this one's related to Seminary Point.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that this is a county issue largely. The county is selling the property to the CIB, and the CIB wants to make it a part of this convention center development. But I don't know if you've been made aware, if people have talked about this to you personally, but especially some of the people who live in those homes have expressed concern. People in the community have expressed concern about just getting rid of 29 units of affordable housing at a time where everyone agrees that there's a housing crisis. And there actually seems to be a decent plan that's within the city's power to promote and to act on, to have the CIB, once they receive the land, to then sell it to the city. And the city can spin it off into what have you. It could be a cooperative, a land trust, details aside. But is there any reason why that plan is unworkable? Well, first, have you heard about it? Is there any reason that plan is unworkable, or why alternatives are not being considered?
So this is a question about Summit Point and an acknowledgement that, Seminary Point. Summit is a different housing project that we're working on. And question about the loss of 29 units of affordable housing, and is the city considering intervening essentially and taking on that project? That is not under our consideration right now, partially because first of all, it's county owned and they already have something going with the CIB. I have not looked at the details of that building, but from talking to others that have, it is prohibitively expensive to get those apartments even up to code. They don't meet our rental code now. And so it would cost some significant money to bring them up to code. And I hope that the people who are living there have reached out to our Housing and Neighborhood Development Department to see if they can help them with housing resources. I don't know what the timeline is with those either, but I would encourage you to talk to your county commissioners who have this in their hands at this point.
Can I just have one follow-up question? Sure. Is the main reason why you're not considering it because this hasn't been brought to your attention, or is it because you have looked at it and you've just considered it prohibitively expensive, even with the affordable housing fund?
We have not looked at it. We simply haven't looked at it, and I'll tell you, we don't have capacity to take on another project right now. We simply don't. If you're tracking what's happening at the State House, Senate Enrolled Act 1 has significantly cut the income that Bloomington will have. HUD has made cuts, et cetera, et cetera. And so financially, we don't have the means to take on another project at this point. Our TIF is maxed out. I mean, we're at a point in the city where we really are looking at how do we maintain what we already have and do a really good job with that and try to meet people's expectations with the basic city services that we must provide. And so I've been talking for a year now about we're not taking on new projects. We don't have any capacity to do it, unfortunately. Yeah. You had a question in the back?
So, from your perspective, what is the single biggest barrier for Bloomington to becoming a top-tier hub for entrepreneurship and innovation?
Okay.
And if you have to design one single initiative for Bloomington to overcome this barrier, what it would be?
Okay. The question is, what is the number one barrier for Bloomington to become the top tier center for innovation and entrepreneurship? If I were going to design an initiative, what would that be? I'll tell you, the top barrier to any business development right now, honestly, is housing. What you're hearing about from several people, that's the answer. People can't move here and they can't grow businesses here because there aren't places for them to live and afford. Now, more directly, what levers in the entrepreneurship world can we pull? I think the most obvious one is how are we incentivizing or allowing student and faculty research to come to market and have them own their own IP. That is a resource that we have here that is, that we, unlike most other communities, we have that here in spades. And I think we, the administration at the university has been trying to move to commercialization. So I think we have a moment, but we haven't totally pivoted that. And so that IP is really a critical barrier from incentivizing the growth that we need. We do have amazing, are you involved already with Amplify? And yeah, okay. So I'm just going to give a commercial. This is not for you, but Amplify Bloomington's doing an amazing job. They're over at the mill, used to be the mill. They've expanded what they're doing. And they're really becoming a fairly magnetic center of entrepreneurship and innovation. And there's really no reason why Bloomington should not be the leader in the Midwest in innovation and entrepreneurship. The state of Indiana is among the bottom of all states in entrepreneurship and innovation. And if we could get that right, again, that's where our wage growth is going to come from. So we really need to nurture those entrepreneurs and help them keep working out of the box to generate some awesome things that come from Bloomington. Yes?
You mentioned earlier, I think it was Montana, that you pushed through some bills in their state that made, I don't know if it was easier or better for transportation and building and stuff. Is there anything that's in their bills that we should be trying to push through here? Because you said ours got gutted, but what did they get through that we didn't?
Yeah, they've, I don't know that they did it this year, but it's been in recent years that they've done it. Oh, I'm sorry. I had mentioned earlier that the state of Montana is, as a red state, kind of leading the pack of red states in terms of zoning reform for housing, kind of following on the heels of what a lot of blue states have already done, especially in the coasts. And he asked, what did Montana do with regards to their housing reform? And they required that different types of housing be allowed, specifically in single-family zoning districts. They required that ADUs, or accessory dwelling units, also known as in-laws quarters, granny flats, that they be allowed in all residential zoning districts. We allow them here. Most of the rest of the state of Indiana doesn't. But in Montana, that law compelled every city, every town, every county to allow them by right in residential zoning districts. They put in place different incentive programs with regards to funding, so that if you're a city that has made modifications to your zoning ordinance to be more housing friendly, then you're eligible for certain streams of funding. I believe that they dramatically decreased the minimum lot sizes, minimum structure sizes that the zoning ordinance usually imposes. We've done a lot of that here. We can still do a little bit more of that. But it essentially cut out the things that were driving sprawl, especially residential sprawl. Yeah, and so those are the big things. If you give me 10 minutes to think about it, I'd probably come up with some more, but that's kind of the lion's share. And North Carolina's doing it. Tennessee has made some progress. So it's kind of spreading out from Montana to do what California and Washington, Oregon, and some other more progressive or blue states. Minnesota's made some big changes, have already done. Sir?
Half the population of Bloomington is affiliated with the university, approximately. And we have a housing shortage, yet the university isn't building dormitories and hasn't for years. Are you working in conjunction with the university to try to get the university to pick up some of that housing need?
I'll take that one. The question was, we're talking a lot about housing tonight, and yet the university is not actively building dorms. And are we talking to them and putting pressure on to help with the housing need? We do talk to them frequently about this, where they are with it is that they already are exceeding the percentage of undergraduates that are housed on campus. The challenge that we have in Bloomington is that we have so many undergraduates that are really ending up driving the cost of housing here. And the way that housing has been developed really since 2009, and it has to do with the lending markets and things like that, are that student housing has been some of the most reliably funded housing because it's secure. The people who live in that house, by and large, do not source the income in the community that they use to pay for that house. And so as David spoke to earlier, our UDO, unfortunately, has made it really easy to build these large student buildings. And those are marketed directly to students. They have amenities, you know, pools and volleyball courts and weight rooms and the things that undergraduates really want. And it's really a lifestyle place to live. And so you wouldn't want to put a single mom with a couple kids in there if you want your baby sleeping through the night, right? And so our challenge in Bloomington, and especially if we're not going to get more on campus, and we can talk to the university about providing more housing, but we have no significant lever to compel them to do this. And so where we are at the city is, how do we incentivize housing for people who live here long term? And how do we get that built? And how do we make sure that it's available at a price point that the people who are sourcing their incomes here can afford? So while we are working with entrepreneurship and innovation and business to try to drive wages up, we also need to really manage the cost of housing, both rental and ownership, and that's part of the great pilot project at Hopewell. And our hope is that it'll really set a pattern so that other folks can develop in that way, in a way that really magnetizes the people who live and work here long term to want to stay. Other questions, Carol?
Yes. So my first question is, keep talking about growing Bloomington, but since the hospital moved, it seems to be under capacity with people reporting cots being in the hallways and staying in the ER a long time. Is there any discussion with the hospital about expanding that at all, so there's more room?
Yes, so the question is that the hospital is over capacity. Is there any conversation about expanding the hospital? The IU Health is very aware that they are over capacity, and so I know that they are looking at, they have a floor that they can expand into. I know that they're looking at that very seriously. And you know, for a community to be whole and healthy and thriving, we do need a healthcare system that is the same. And so I know those conversations are happening. I am sometimes part of them, but we've been clear, and the hospital leadership is very aware that the model that was set for this hospital, which was that we get people in, and that the new healthcare is that people don't stay overnight, right? We know that that's not necessarily true. And we're a regional hub. And with the way that Medicaid and Medicare have gone, the regional hospitals are closing very quickly. And so more and more people are coming to hospitals like Bloomington. So we're really seeing an evolution in healthcare that is concerning, not just in Bloomington, but across the nation. And so yes, that conversation is happening.
My second question is, an update on Crawford?
Yeah, I actually am getting an update on Crawford. The question was, can I have an update on Crawford? I'm getting an update on Crawford, I think, on Thursday. So no status change on Crawford as of yet. Other questions? Are there any note card questions? Yes.
Maybe you can clear up some misunderstandings or something. The state legislature had moved to keep us from subsidizing low-cost housing, and at the same time, it seems that there are incentives for builders to leave units empty for tax purposes. I get getting very confusing information on this. Can you explain any of that to me?
So the question, and then I'm going to have to ask a clarifying question to be able to answer the question, but the question is that there's confusing information out there about housing, and that there's some state legislation that prohibits what?
Low-income housing.
Low-income housing?
And the state legislature said that we couldn't do that, or am I misunderstanding something?
So the question is, there's something in the state legislature that prohibits low-income housing, and yet we also have something that is incentivizing vacancies in apartments. Okay. I'm not familiar with the state legislation prohibiting low-income housing. Are you talking about a decrease in levels of federal assistance?
All I know is that Bloomington tried to come up with incentives for low-income housing, and the state legislature passed laws that would not allow Bloomington to do that. And it seemed like it specifically targeted Bloomington. Did I misunderstand something?
There's a thing called inclusionary zoning, which is the state does not allow and has never allowed. That is a situation where when you're building something, you have to build a certain amount of affordable units in it. Right now, we have those as incentives, so we don't say you have to include these. We say, if you want an extra floor or if you want a bigger building, then include some affordable units. So that's not really changed. The other thing that maybe came to mind, maybe not though, is that Fishers and Carmel just passed laws that limit rentals in certain neighborhoods. So you can have, in a given subdivision, like a maximum of 15% are not owner occupied but are rented. That the state did strike those down. Now, the prohibition of those laws doesn't go into effect for another 2 years. The state has essentially said you cannot say in this house there must be an owner occupant, there cannot be a renter, which is pretty common. So the state did strike that down. Two things that Fishers and Carmel did, which presumably because it's for renters, would be people with lower incomes. But that's the only thing that really came to mind based on your questions.
And I don't know of incentives to keep units vacant, but there. But I think what happens, and what I've heard people talking about, is that especially in large developments, the landlords, it's more profitable for them to keep their rents very high, even if they have a few vacancies, than to drop the rent to get those filled. So I think it's mostly an economics discussion, and that's why, and I do believe anecdotally that there are starting to be some vacancies, okay? Now, IU is increasing their enrollment, and so they may get filled, but we believe anecdotally that there are some vacancies now. We've built a lot of housing that's specifically targeted to undergraduates. Yeah, you have another question?
Yeah, I have questions for days. My question is that, given that we're in an election year and there is at least 10 Democrats running around for state house seats, if 4 of them win, we get rid of the super minority status. which might stem the tide of terrible legislation coming from the State House. I'm wondering if in your conversations with Democrats around the state, if these conversations happen, is there some sort of plan for if you should reduce the supermajority? Like what sort of steps that can be had at the State House that would affect places like Bloomington? Like, I don't know, leveraging that non-super minority status to allow regulating landlord-tenant relationships, for example, or all sorts of other cool, fun things.
Yeah, I think that I think many of us dream of lots of things we could get done at the State House, and I won't say that there's a cohesive plan around that at this point. Most of the planning is going into how do we get people to vote, and that's the root of a lot of problems that we have. We have very, very low voter turnout. And what that means, and I used to think that that voting was like the minimum engagement in the democratic process, but it's sort of up here now. People are so disengaged. And so I think if we got people voting, then no matter what party you were, you would probably be more representative of the people. And so that's where I think we should be working. We need people to get to the polls, and we need them to know that it matters. And you know that because you show up at all of these meetings, right? And hold electeds accountable. But when I go knocking doors, which I do once a month, I hear from so many people that they just don't even vote because they think it doesn't make a difference. They literally tell me that. I didn't vote for you, and I haven't voted in years, and I'm not going to because it doesn't make a difference. Well, I'm showing up at their door to figure out how I can make a difference, right? But I need those folks to vote. We all need them to vote because that's how our communities are going to get represented. Okay, we're running out of time. Is anybody waiting to be the last question? Somebody wants to be the anchor question tonight. I'm going to ask the last question then. I want somebody, maybe multiple people, to tell me one thing they love about Bloomington. Yeah, what do you love about Bloomington?
I like the small town feel and its proximity to both Indianapolis and national parks.
Nice. Small town feel and proximity to both Indy and national parks. Yes.
Bloomington Speedway has been here since 1923. It's one of about 10 of the oldest tracks, continuously operating tracks in the world.
Wow. Bloomington Speedway has been here since 1943? 1923, and it's one of the 10 longest continuously running tracks in the world.
And I will say one more thing. I'm a race fan, you might have gathered that. I have personally seen 24 people drive at Bloomington and drive in the 500. I don't mean I saw 24 people drive here that did. I saw 24 people drive both places. This track is, it's nationally famous, in that hub.
Okay, I want an invite to go to the track with you. I've never been. He's seen 24 drivers that have driven at Bloomington Speedway and at the Indy, up in Indy. So, any Friday night. Okay, awesome. I've heard it for years, but I've never been. Yes, Jeff.
I love the Arts and Griffey Reservoir, a hidden gem.
Yes, the Arts and Griffey Reservoir with new trails. Any other, why do we love Bloomington? Yes, we have fantastic teachers in Bloomington. Such great schools. Any last thoughts? Katz is going to cut us off. Okay. I'll be here hanging out if you want to talk afterwards. Thank you for being here at Morgenstern's. Thank you to our cafe crew who has kept us caffeinated and well hosted. And thank you to Morgan Stearns for hosting us. And thank you, David, for even more of your time by joining a town hall. I was, yeah. It was so